Hey, it's Jamie Scrimger. When I became a stepmom, I quickly realized that while moms are encouraged to keep it real, there's a big double standard when it comes to stepmoms. So I decided to start the conversation myself. Thriving as a stepmom doesn't just come from conversations about being a stepmom, though. Here we dive into marriage, relationships, personal growth, and more. My mission? Inspire you to live a kick-ass life while bringing you along as I create my own. This is the Kick-Ass Stepmom Podcast. Hello. Welcome to the Kick-Ass Stepmom Podcast. Okay. Obviously, I love conversations that I have with all of my guests, but some conversations just make me want to get on a plane and go connect and meet these people in real life. Like, I just cannot get enough. And that's how I felt after the conversation I'm about to share with you. So I learned about today's guest by listening to Kristen Cavallari's podcast. She had her on to talk about co-parenting and how to co-parent with a narcissist, her experience in stepmotherhood. And after that conversation, I was like, I need to get her on the podcast, stat. And we made it happen. So today I am sharing a conversation I had with Dr. Sherrie Campbell. She is a licensed clinical psychologist who specializes in helping healthy people cut ties with toxic people in their lives. She is a nationally recognized expert on family estrangement. She's a best-selling author, a TEDx speaker. She is a top 1% podcast host of the show Sherrie Sessions, Cutting Toxic Family Ties, and is a regularly featured media expert. And she's my new friend. You guys are going to love this conversation. Not only do we talk about narcissism and co-parenting with a high conflict ex, Sherrie shares some really useful tips and strategies on how she has navigated her experience dating someone with kids. And yeah, you guys are going to love this one. So let's dive in. All right, Dr. Sherrie, welcome to the Kick-Ass Stepmom Podcast. I cannot tell you how excited I am for this conversation.
I'm really excited too, Jamie. I think we have a lot to talk about, so it'll be great. Yeah.
I think, lots to talk about. So I think before we really dive in, can you just share a little bit about how you came to do this work? Because I always feel like there's a story behind, the female-driven businesses and entrepreneurship and the work that we're doing and we're sharing. So I'd love to hear yours.
So I actually just grew up in a very toxic family and was very lost for many, many years of my life, literally, really trying to navigate because I tried very hard to stay connected to my family. And I've pioneered a no contact acceptance in the field of toxic family. I've never encouraged it, but I absolutely support it because I had no other choice. I had 9 marriages between my parents. So there was just so much change. And every time they divorced, they changed. Then every time they fell in love, my parents changed. So I was constantly drug along in all of this change where I was constantly having to change and seeing these new people as my new parents, which I never felt that way. And then they'd last for 3 years and then they'd be gone. And then my parents themselves, obviously very, very toxic and cruel and sadistic and mean and the things. And I think that journal writing was my lifeline growing up. And I think I was able to literally write myself back into existence against a narrative that I was the scapegoat in the family because I couldn't tolerate all of this selfishness and the lack of thought toward children. So it kind of started me on this journey where I ended up becoming a psychologist. And my first psychologist was incredible. But the labels weren't there. I'm 53. So the labels that are so labeled today, I didn't really know what kind of cancer I had. I just was told, you're not the problem, you're the symptom of the problem, right? Your behavior, because I wasn't thriving. Very hard to thrive in an environment like that. Because then all these other people that were marrying my parents, most of them had kids. So that I'm thrust with all these new kids. And now they had to be my sister and my brother. And it was just a mess. And so I found myself out of that mess. And now I've created a really wonderful life, a healed life, a healing life.
Mm-hmm. Healing, because it is a process, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And so what made me want to have you on the podcast, I discovered you on Kristen Cavallari's podcast, and you had Such an in-depth, great conversation on, toxic relationships, co-parenting with a narcissist. You are now in a relationship now with someone who has kids. And so you have your own, step parenting, quote unquote, journey and experience. And I would love to dive into that with you. So let's start with the co-parenting with the narcissist piece, because sounds like there's some experience there. And I always love when you're a professional on the outside and then when you're dealing with it in real life. Like I know I found that before I started this platform, I was working in child protection. So I worked with a lot of families with custody and access, high conflict acts, like all of the things. And so when I hooked up with my husband, he had 3 kids. I was a child of divorce. I was like, okay, I got this. Like, this is like
easy,
totally fine. Well, it wasn't, right? Because the way it feels when you're dealing with it in real life compared to, the books and being the expert on the outside and the research, it's really different.
Oh, it's so different. I always claim I'm a survivor before I'm any expert. Listen, I did more school than other people. It's not that deep. It was hard, but it's not that deep. It wasn't life-changing for me. Nothing of what I read in my PhD helped me with my family trauma and all the change. We don't address those topics in a PhD. We address the clinical topics and the theories and how to be in the room with a patient and blah, blah, blah. So I think that I've learned far more just experiencing life and trauma than I have actually learned anything from reading about it.
Yeah, I love that. The school of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge lover of Element. It is my go-to electrolyte drink and a longtime sponsor of the podcast. So yes, Element is a tasty electrolyte drink with everything you need and nothing you don't. That means lots of salt and no sugar, no artificial ingredients, no coloring, no BS. It is formulated to help anyone with their electrolyte needs and is perfectly suited if you're following a keto, a low carb, or a paleo diet. I just did the metabolic reset, which I've shared about on the podcast, and it was totally okay on that as well. Basically, if you're a professional athlete or you're just an everyday mom, it is for you. Element is a huge part of my day-to-day, whether it be rehydrating during workouts, when I'm traveling, after maybe a little too much wine, in my cocktails and my mocktails. Like I am always popping the Element salt into my drinks. 100 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, 60 milligrams of magnesium. I have one every day. Seriously though, about the cocktails, throw in some lime Element salt with soda, tequila, lime, and mint. It is so delicious. So staying hydrated is a crucial and huge priority of mine. And proper hydration isn't just about drinking water. It means having adequate water and salt. And big news, Element just introduced Element Sparkling. So again, no sugar, there's no caffeine in this, all electrolytes. Element Sparkling delivers the same zero sugar electrolyte formulation that I have been telling you guys about, now in a bold 16-ounce can of sparkling water. I couldn't have got better news. This is so exciting. I am such a fan of Element. Already put it in my soda water. So this just made my life so much easier. Element Sparkling offers health seekers an all-new option to support their health across the board spectrum of occasions. So with each can, you're taking a sip against sugar and stimulant-loaded drinks, and you're turning the tide towards health. I am so pumped for this. To grab some Element, head to www.drinklmnt.com/kickassstepmom and get a free sample pack with any drink mix purchase. That's just the drink mix purchase. I love these free sample packs because it just gives you a chance to try all the flavors and decide which one is your fave. Mine is watermelon. Darren loves lime. Head to www.drinkelement.com/kickassstepmom to get a free sample pack with a purchase of a drink mix and keep your eye out for the new Element Sparkling. Seriously, cannot wait.
Okay, guys, I absolutely love sharing products that I am obsessed with. And one of the big things that I am all about when I'm working with a brand is that I'm not going to share anything that I wouldn't share with my best friends. And I've been telling all of my friends about OSEA. So I was using OSEA skincare for a while there, and then I ran out and I didn't place an order to renew it. And then life just happened. And so I didn't have it for a few months. And then I was looking at my skin. I'm like, what is going on? I really noticed the difference. My skin was just blah. So I just restocked on the body butter, the algae body oil, and the collagen boosting moisturizer. And my legs and my body are thanking me for it. So specifically the collagen body lotion, it's ultra hydrating, it is lightweight and scientifically proven to visibly firm skin in just 4 hours. No joke, it does. And when I hydrate, I just really want my skin to feel dewy and moisturized and firm and soft. And it does all of that stuff. Packed with clinically proven ingredients, including vegan collagen, hyaluronic acid to deliver lasting hydration and radiant and revitalized skin, OSEA is literally the best. And the body butter and the oils, it's just like such a treat for your skin. In fact, I just add the Salts of the Sea body scrub and the body polish to my cart. Used to have them, didn't restock, and it's just such a great way to exfoliate your skin. Just get your skin prepped for summer because we're about to go into bathing suit season and I want my skin to look good, dewy, and moisturized. So if that feels aligned for you, I recommend going to OSEAMalibu.com and using the code KICKASSStepmom10 for 10% off your first order. That's www.OSEAMalibu.com and use the code KICKASSStepmom10 for 10% off your order. For 27 years, OSEA has been on a mission to create clean, seaweed-infused skincare that respects the natural world and makes skin look and feel its absolute best. And I don't know about you, but whenever I'm trying to find clean skincare, I often feel like I have to sacrifice the effects. Like it doesn't work that well. OSEA, it's not like that. Today, it's called Clean Beauty, but OSEA has been doing this since the beginning. Their products have been infused with seaweed because it's rich in vitamins, minerals, and nutrients and have endless benefits from the ocean. Again, you have to go check out all of the amazing products on their site. I listed a few of my faves, but there are so many. From skincare to hair products to body scrubs, there are so many amazing products to choose from. OSEA really does have you covered for clean, vegan, and cruelty-free skincare products. So go to OSEAMalibu.com and use the code KICKASSStepmom10 for 10% off your first order. So let's talk about co-parenting with a narcissist. So many of the stepmoms in my community really struggle with having that higher conflict co-parenting relationship. Maybe the ex is interfering, the ex is trying to control things, saying things about the stepmom or saying things about the dad or the partner to the kids and really trying to interfere with that relationship. And it's just so hard to figure out the best way to navigate that. And often I find these stepmoms, the way that they try to address it ends up making things worse.
I would always say to advise anybody being a child who had, so many different step parents and then dating men. And now my partner and I are together 8 years, but we're just raising kids in different counties, but we're a little family. He has 2 boys and I have a daughter. So his ex-wife is so high conflict that we actually broke up after 4 years because she would not let him get divorced. And she was posting on social media as the daughter-in-law. I was like, what is going on? Every date night we had, she'd be blowing him up, and you're kind of sitting there like, I don't know if there's really room for me in this man's life because we cannot manage the ex to even have a date night. So we really had to work on our boundaries. But what I never did, I never put my face in her face. They're not my kids. I love them, but they're not my kids. I had to figure out if I could stay with my partner, if he could not set boundaries on her. And I don't blame him for not wanting to set boundaries on her. It's like the benefit cost is just so bad. There's no return on your investment. But over time, I think that him learning to gray rock her and just not take the bait served him very well. And I did coach him on a lot of those things. Another thing I ran into with him is he'd never had a blended family. There's an 80% divorce rate.
I know.
Let's just be real on why? Because we're blending families and we're dealing with exes. She was very invasive toward me. There was a court order for her to not contact me. She was blowing up my phone, going on my social media. I still, to this day, 8 years in, have never met her in person. Now, I think if you Google me and you're like her and I'm me, I think that's probably very scary for her. She tries to tell the boys I manipulate them, and I don't manipulate the children. But I give her all the room to be their mom. I really do not interfere. I don't want to meet her. If I don't ever have to meet her, I won't. She's scary, but mostly because she will abuse the boys after from jealousy or insecurity or, whatever is going on inside of her. She's not a good mom. And so I think that the boys really naturally, organically love me. And I had to force my partner into letting me find my own way to his kids, because he was trying to force relationships between us. And I'm like, I'm not Mother Earth. I don't want to breastfeed Mother Earth. Like, they have a mom. I want to be their friend. I want to be their mentor, but I don't want to be their mom. I'm not their mom. And I don't want you to be London's dad because you're not her dad. We are a blended family. Oh, he really struggled with that. But as I said, if you let me find my own way to these kids, the relationship will be so authentic. And that is what we want. We want an authentic relationship. And that is what we've done in 8 years. And I actually think the breakup was good. I think it gave him some perspective that she was so disruptive to the relationship. They did get bifurcation, but still 8 years in, she won't sign any of the documents to close this down financially. And I've had to tolerate some of that as part of loving him. It's hard.
Yeah, it's very hard. I want to go back to something that you said. You said, I don't blame him for not wanting to set boundaries with her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is something that a lot of stepmoms need to hear, because I have conversations with women in my community and on coaching calls, and they're saying, well, he's not setting boundaries. He's not prioritizing me. This is a disrespect to me. And that's how they feel. They feel like not setting boundaries with her is disrespectful to their relationship and them. But I often encourage them to kind of dive into it a little bit more. It's like, why? Because sometimes when you set boundaries, often when you set boundaries with someone who is higher conflict or who, is very volatile and narcissistic, it ends up making it worse. So you really and truly have to pick your battles and decide what's worth. So is he actually doing that to protect you?
Yeah, I don't think he's doing it to hurt you or not prioritize you. And fair, I've had that same thought as all those other women. Like, not feeling like valued, feeling like he would sacrifice me and my needs to not poke the bear, right? But what I think he was doing was protecting himself. And that's not a selfish thing to do, especially when the divorce won't be settled. He was just trying to do everything he could to make it peaceful so that they could have a peaceful ending. But we did break up. So because it was never going to get there. So there's got to be a balance where when he's setting boundaries, he's doing it for him, not for his woman. He has to know that it's for him. It's for the good of him. It's his process. It's his life. It's his divorce, right? I think that women get competitive, and I think that that gets in our way. And I think we see this everywhere with women hating women, right? It's not that he cares about her more. It's that he's trying to protect his sanity. And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it backfires. But I think that if you can have open communication, and instead of judging him or her, for crying out loud, I mean, I'm sure that there's women that go through this with a toxic male ex too, right? But I think that whoever is in that scenario, you have to have compassion, and you're recognizing you're dealing with a sociopath on the other side of this person. And when there's children involved, you can be so afraid to say or do anything to that sociopath because of what they'll do to the kids, right? So I think a lot of space is good. And I think that you have to have boundaries around maybe what your time is. Like if you have a date night every Wednesday night, I think you just make an agreement not to answer calls on that night. We've practiced this over time. If you're listening, think of it as like this person is throwing what I would call the monkey dance. It's like a wild gorilla, and they're going to get loud and they're going to bang and they're going to make you feel like you're going to die. But if you recognize that there's a huge, like at a zoo, glass protecting you, you won't be quite as scared, and then you can ignore the monkey. So once the monkey knows that you're not afraid anymore, then the monkey loses its power. But at first, it's going to increase in its rage. So my boyfriend and I talked a lot about the monkey dance. You can look it up online, the narcissistic monkey dance. He's learned to give her very little attention, that his silence is more powerful than his words, right? You're never going to win in a battle with a narcissist. I said with Kristen, like, I have a PhD. It has never helped me win an argument with a narcissist. So I think that you have to be accepting of it. This is a sociopath, not just another woman. This is a sociopathic woman, and there are children involved. I'm not saying lay down. I'm not saying don't say how you feel, but I'm saying respect what he's dealing with and back off. Just back off, because if he loves you, he will really appreciate that it needs to handle her in some ways his way, not your way, right? He's been married to her. He knows what her patterns are. And I think sometimes women can be a little bit self-righteous in thinking that they know what to do best.
Yeah.
And it may not even be that they're wrong. It may just be that idea doesn't work for him, and you have to be able to accept it.
Yeah. I think one thing that's really helped me is getting curious. And so when I don't understand why my husband is responding something, or why he didn't want to, have the battle over the $15 volleyball cost, or, because I'm like, well, it's the principal, things like that, like things that really happened at the beginning. We've been together for we've been together for 12 years now. And when I started to get curious, but to why he was picking his battles and why this wasn't worth it, it literally changed the game. And it really helped me have a deeper understanding of him. And when I laid off a little bit and I wasn't having an issue with every single thing, then when I felt like something was really important, like this was a hard no, or you got to hear me on this, you're wrong, he was in a better space to deal with it and to have that conversation with me, because I had respected him and gotten curious about it. Like the way we were having these conversations completely transformed. And I think that is the big thing, right? Like we're so stuck on how we think they should respond and how they should respond. I gotta tell you, we didn't have a super high conflict situation, but there was definitely high conflict periods. And it was really like a kind of like an emotional roller coaster looking back, which I think sometimes is worse because you don't know what to expect, right? Just the uncertainty of it all. But there were so many things. I was like, you need to do this. We need to get, you need to set boundaries on this. I want you to respond on this. Did you send the email on this? Like kind of on him. And I was like, whatever. Like he would just like not do it or say he was going to do it and then not, right? Just to kind of get out of the conversation, as they do.
Yes, they do.
And when we did finally set a boundary and say no to something, it was a vacation request on a week that we had the kids and that we had taken the kids away every year annually to a cottage, had already booked the cottage and said no to the vacation request while also providing ways to accommodate it. There we are, lawyers' letters in court, thousands of dollars later. So I think we also have to, child support being reevaluated, like everything. So you have to kind of play with the power game as well and really choose, like, does this really matter? Will this help the situation or will it make it worse? And it's not about winning. It really isn't.
It is not about winning. And I so appreciate, the way that you framed that, because I do think we have to choose our battles. I think that women can micromanage men a lot, just in general.
You think?
Right. Now let's talk about why, though, because out of all fairness, we use both sides of our brain. Okay. Men do not. They're not designed that way. They're not dumb. I hate it when people say men are dumb. They're not dumb. They use one side of their brain. That is what they're supposed to use. That is how they're designed. And there are specific reasons around hunting or providing that he needs that. But we don't. So we use both sides of the brain and we pay attention to every nuance going on in our environment. Why? Because we can have babies. So if they're out hunting and we're left alone, we're going to hear every stick break 7 miles down in the forest. So we are more aware. We feel and experience negativity more than men. We have more neurons in our gray matter. Okay, so we are paying attention to things in a far deeper way. And that is how we were made, because we have to take care of more than us. We have children, and we can have more than one child, right? So women actually are almost always right, just because of the way we take in information.
I love that.
However, how we communicate it is very often wrong. We are not their therapist. We are not their coach. We're not their mother. We're not their boss. We are their lover. Okay, I wish that we could demasculize some women a little bit. You don't want to have a bigger penis than your husband. You want to be there as a feminine energy, supporting him. But when you know more, you cannot get frustrated with him that he doesn't get it. And if he wants you to back off, back off. They're not your kids. It's not your ex-wife. Breathe. Give it space. That to me is the power of really stepping into more of a feminine energy, is be patient, receive. Doesn't mean don't say no. On these vacation issues, there's going to be such clear, hard no's. And you do have to set a standard of, you just can't enable this person. But when it comes to a $15 overcharge on a volleyball, let it go, right? Let it go. And I had to learn it too. I'm not coming at this because I've always been good at it. I'm coming at this because I failed miserably at it, right? I had to step back from a man that I loved, and I had to listen to him when he says, stop controlling, right? I will. And it's not that there aren't times that I'll be like, hey, you know, what's the update on the paperwork for settling out the finances? Oh, now she wants to add this. Now she wants to add that. I'm like, all right, listen, he's divorced. That's bigger for me than the bifurcation. It's a game. I've watched him try everything. And, you know, they love to keep these people stuck. We'll make him just as stuck. He's got her, and then he's got this, you know, believe me, he wants to get rid of her more than anything, but there's only so much he can do. Family court's incredibly corrupt. So there's only much he can do. We can start focus on controlling him more than loving him. And like you said, being curious about him. The more I've stepped back and the more I have trusted him to do things in his timing, not all things, some things, okay, it's so much better. It's just so much better. And I'm so much happier because I already have a life I have to live and work on. I don't want to juggle his, juggle mine, juggle his child support. None of those things are my business, right? I want to be juggling me and him. And when she's a part of it, I pick and choose my battles now.
Yeah. And when you do that, when you soften a bit, you want to be that soft place to land when your partner comes home or when your partner is struggling. And I know some people struggle with that. I actually just had someone who really specializes and really dives into like the feminine and the masculine polarity. And he's got some pretty, like, he's a little bit extreme, and it did trigger a lot of people who listen to it. But I'm like, sit with it for a bit because it really does make sense. It doesn't mean that tolerating disrespect. It doesn't mean that you don't have a say. It doesn't mean that you can't, you know, have any control of your life. In fact, when you do, you get so much more control.
Yes, but you will get nowhere in life screaming.
Mm-hmm.
Anywhere. When I have couples in here and she freaks out, like I had a woman throw a pillow across my office the other day. You're an asshole. Threw the pillow. I'm like, excuse me, but that's my pillow. And also, how old are you?
Right.
I mean, it's okay, get mad, but you're actually in an office and you should be mindful. And is that attractive to him? No, he sees her as completely out of control. Does she have the right to be mad? Yes. But I think that you just get nowhere in life screaming. And I'm not a feminist, so I want to put that out there. I just love the idea of receiving, and being able to be patient is a superpower. Listening rather than talking so much. Listening, being curious. You know, how can you hear someone if your mouth is moving? If you're right all the time, then you are self-righteous. I think you have to think about how you're being received. And I believe about this everywhere. If you're yelling at people in your business and micromanaging them, you're going to have high turnover of people working under you. we sometimes treat our partners like they owe us. We sometimes treat our partners like, they're our children rather than our partner. And I don't think anyone likes to be treated that way, male or female, right? So I do think there's value in how you regulate your emotion. I'm not saying that you don't feel the intensity of the emotion. I think that you have to look at the timing, the pace, and the tone.
For sure. And getting back on the same team as your partner. And when you soften a little bit, you guys have that space to have that open and honest conversation. You're not fighting them all the time. You're realizing you actually are on the same team. And I think that is really powerful. So if you can work on tackling this stuff together, minimizing the impact and trusting your partner, trusting that they have your best interest at heart. And even though it's not maybe going to be done the way that you would do it, just trusting them and kind of surrendering. It's so powerful. It is literally so powerful.
I would say his ex broke us up, and now there's not a more powerful influence in drawing us closer than his ex. So I would also like to put out there that there's a learning curve. There's a learning curve. Ours was 4 years. Okay. I definitely wasn't going to tolerate being with a married man for more than that. Like that was already a lot. To me, he was divorced, right? But the contract was there. And I believe this universe, contracts are powerful. So I didn't want him contractually with another team if I'm going to spend my life with him, right? So I do think that, I had to set a boundary because he was setting none. And so I think that break was like 3 months, really helped us both realize we really love each other. We don't have an internal problem. We have an external problem. And that's far better if you have an external problem than an internal problem, right? And we've come together as a team and we have really figured out how to make her help us just be closer. Like we're really on the same team. I had to change and he had to change.
I have never been one of those get ready with me, here's my makeup routine girlies on Instagram, but I do get asked a lot of questions about the products that I use and my makeup routine. So here's the deal. A few years ago, I learned about HB Face from someone that I follow on Instagram. I decided to place an order. I just loved that the founder, Hailey Bogart, her makeup routine seemed simple. It was an easy process. She had great tutorials on her Instagram, and I was like, okay, I'm going to try this. Plus, she's a badass female entrepreneur, and I love supporting that. So after using her products for a few days, I ended up throwing everything else in the garbage. It is so good and changed the way I feel about doing my makeup. So Hailey Bogart is a makeup artist, and she has built a trusted brand by working with celebrities and influencers and countless others across the globe. She has locations in Toronto and Oakville and has huge plans to expand. And guys, her skincare and makeup line, well, it was created with formulas perfected for simple and effective everyday use. And each product was created based on a belief that beauty should be fun and effortless and stress-free, which I am all about. I love all of her products, but I will quickly run through my favorites. So her Skin Perfector is like a light foundation that just perfects your skin and evens out tones. It's just not too heavy. I love it. I love the concealer. I use the bronzer, the tint sticks for a little pink on my cheek. Her mascara is bomb, and her brow kit is next level. Also check out the skin butter and the face scrub. It is so good. So if you go to hbface.com/Jamie Scrimger and use the code HBJamie, you will get 20% off your order. That's www.hbface.com/Jamie Scrimger, JamiesCrimgeour, and use the code HB20. You'll get 20% off your order. I know you're going to love this makeup. And when you get it and you try it and you love it, shoot me a DM on Instagram. I can't wait to chat.
Where we're really lucky is that our kids adore each other. Mm-hmm. That's a whole other show probably when the stepkids don't like each other. And what do the parents do? Is the tail going to wag the dog? You can't force people to like other people. Like that's a whole thing on step families I never see. And I'm in the process of starting a series of books on step family at this point. But I do feel that we are very lucky that our kids get along. There are so many blessings along the way. in a step family, the kind of growth you can get from one, if you can figure out how to be more receptive and less defensive, it is so huge. And I think too, allowing the kids to respect that that is their other parent. You don't have to like that parent, but you have to respect that it's not that child's fault, that that is their parent. And then have compassion for these children. What they're going through is so hard.
I know. I'd love to talk about your perspective on going to extracurriculars. And I think, again, this is something that some people need to hear. And I don't think it's the right move in every situation if it's higher conflicts. I do think there's times when you can exist separately. However, I do think there's times when it's like, tell them what you do before I go off.
Okay. I personally am not in a situation in this relationship with this man that I attend the events, any of them. And she is so cruel about me having never met me. And she puts the boys in a position where now the boys are standing up for me. And I'm just like, why doesn't she she's doing it to herself? I respect that her feelings about me are so intense, having never met me. Okay. But that I am in their kid's life. I think if you Google me and you're her and you even watch one of my videos, the shoe's going to fit. So that's probably not easy for her because she's not someone who wants to look in a mirror. So I have compassion for her in that respect. I think if you're a sociopath and you see me online every day discussing mothers like this, because my mother was too, yeah, I'm pretty sure she doesn't like me very much. So the boys recently, she was saying have you noticed that, Sherrie never goes where I'm at? She said this to one of the boys. So the boys brought it up because, they're like, why? Yeah, why doesn't she? So I addressed the boys and I said, I don't go because I love you. And my fear is that if I go, you're going to be so in the middle. She's going to watch you like a hawk. If you talk to me, she's going to interpret it through whatever is going on in her mind. I'm going to feel like I don't really want to approach you because I don't want to put you in that position to be in the middle. And then I think all the way home and for the next few weeks, all you're going to hear about is, oh, she doesn't like my hair or she's this or she's that. She's going to get into something and then you're going to end up defending me. And that's going to put you in conflict with her. And I love you boys. And I don't want to do that to you. I don't think that's right of me. It's not my fault the way she feels about me, but if I have control over how she treats you around the topic of me, and I could save you from all of that, I would rather do that. I go to everything that I can on your dad's weekends. When you're 18, you can have any relationship with me that you want. And I said, and that relationship will be your choice. I said, I really love you boys. Now, I'm not going to miss a high school graduation because there are going to be 3,000 people there. It was the youngest's 8th grade promotion. And it's a tiny school and it's a private school and it's her domain. I want her to have that too. I don't like this person, but I don't want to steal joy. Those are her boys. I don't want to steal that. But yes, I will go for a high school graduation. I'm going to go to a marriage. I'm going to go to, those things. So at some point we're going to interface, but for me, there's one rule, and that is kids come first.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I think just the minimizing conflict, right? And I know we get caught up in, well, I should be able to go to this, or it should be this way. It should be that way. Yeah, there's a lot of shoulds when it comes to blended families and high conflict situations. But I think you have to accept what the situation is and do your best to kind of minimize that conflict. And I know there's a lot of stepmoms who struggle because they're like, oh, my stepkids act so differently around me when their mom is around. And I'm like, that's okay. It is totally okay. They are protecting themselves. They're uncomfortable. They are trying to, prevent awkward situations in the car or conversations, or maybe they're going to get in trouble. So, we have to remember that when we're dealing with high conflict people, we're dealing with narcissists, these kids also have to navigate this and protect themselves. So there's that piece.
Yeah. And the kids are forgotten about. Women get so competitive. They want to win for what? What are you winning? You're going to hurt a child.
I know.
The injustice to children I just get so visceral about it because I was a stepchild 9 times over. I was not considered. My opinion didn't matter. I would change around my most toxic parent to save my life, not to hurt my other parent. If my father was talking poorly about my mother and me joining in on that, or at least passively agreeing, would save me from getting hit or save me from him screaming and yelling at me and cursing at me, guess what? She's not around. I'm going to do what I have to do to stay safe. So I get so heated because I don't look at the ex-wife as my goal or my problem. I look at the children as my goal and my problem. And it's so important to me that the kids come first. And I think that's why divorce court is also just so corrupt. It allows for wasted money. It allows for these parents to be so much more committed to each other in hate than they were ever committed in love. And then you add another hateful person into the mix, whether it's the new stepdad or the new stepmom, right? And with the kids, what? Where are they? Why aren't they coming first? So would I love to go and see the kids do all the things? Oh my gosh. Yes, I would love that. But that's going to hurt them? Then no, I don't. I don't want to. I'm also in a situation, my unique situation, if there's any listeners that can relate, I don't want to meet her. I have no interest in being anywhere she is, not as a human being, just in general. But I don't want those kids to be in the middle of a triangle that I'm not their parent. So, there are so many things about being a stepchild that I think are missing in the literature. Like what happens when these boys open up to me and just full download on how she is? What is your role there? What do you do? Right. And I have had to navigate that with these boys. They feel very safe to speak with me. That is their mother. So I have to speak in a way that validates them. Like when they show me god awful text messages that she writes to them, or when she punishes them, she's videoing them with a video camera as a threat to expose their bad behavior, when really the only one who's looking bad in the video, to her lack of self-awareness, is her. But I don't ever trash her because that's their mom and they have to go home to that. Now, I will say that's not right. That to me is not healthy parenting. And I'm so sorry that she spoke to you in that manner. And I'll tell them, if doing what she just wants you to do will make you survive, I think you should do it. So I think the kids just get forgotten. And I think I've become a safe space for these boys to open up. She was lying to one of them about child support. And I mean, like egregiously lying. So I said to Scott, when you get home, can you just please take out your documentation that your child support is garnished and she gets 28% of this and that of blah, blah, blah. Can you just show him? Because she's crying poor because you're 6 months behind on child support, which he would never be. But it's poisoning and hurting these children. So I try to stay in alignment with truth, always.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because I think that we struggle because we're like, you don't want to get the kids involved. You don't want to talk to them about adult issues. You don't want to talk negatively about their other parent. But what do you do when she's saying things that are false about you and about your partner? Like, how do you recommend responding to that?
I always say this. I am so happy that you shared this with me. Thank you. That really means so much to me that you feel like you can. So let's just unpack it. So the reason the child support thing came up is because I got so little child support that I just never spent it. And I got it on like a little credit card type of thing. And now my daughter has $50,000. The $500 a month, I just didn't help me very much, right? So I saved it. So that came out at lunch because I was very proud of myself, that my daughter has $50,000. I've invested it for her, whatever she can use it for. And then one of his sons was like, my mom would never do that. Now, my boyfriend pays more than that a year in his own child support. So I can't even imagine. Then he went in and he told me all this stuff. And I said, well, all I know, I don't want to say his name. All I know is that your dad would never not pay the child support. And I said, how would you feel if I had your dad show you? I said, because I think you're being told something that isn't true, but I'm not her. But I know your dad and I can't really speak for her, but I can have your dad show you what he does if that would make you feel better. And he said, yes, of course. So we get and we stay in alignment with truth. She then subsequently got in trouble with her own lawyer and needed to drop the finances because Scott confronted her on it, right? Kids will always tell us the truth. Kids will always need to know that we will adhere to that truth, because how can they navigate life without it?
Because it's safe, though. I think we have to add in that, right? And that they know that it's safe to have those conversations with you.
They know that it's safe, and I don't handle any of the problems for them. I defer to Scott. I'm a huge believer in no gossip in a family simply because of how I grew up, and that's probably an impossible ask, but I will not respond to gossip. Like, for example, my partner's mom says, oh, Scott doesn't care about blah, blah, blah. I won't respond. I'll photo snap it. I'll send it to Scott and say, this was said. I'm not handling it. Speak for yourself. But I'm also not going to not tell you, because I'm in alignment with what's truth and I need things to be open. I think the boys sense that about me. I'm never going to go after their mom. I've never said anything mean. Also, I've never pried into their life. I wait and I let them come to me. If they have something they want to ask me, I will answer and I will tell them the truth. But I don't talk bad about her. I will always say, that's your mom. You have to defer to her. But I can tell you that I know your dad pays child support. So why don't I let him show you? Because I don't really have the evidence. And so I think you should wait for kids. As a stepmom, you can't force yourself on them because you'll produce a loyalty conflict. They will feel guilty, especially if they have an abusive mother, that if they dare step out of loyalty to her, they're going to get in big trouble. There are rules that kids get set that you're not allowed to like that woman. She's not your mom. I mean, it's amazing what these kids go through. And I think they're the forgotten pieces in step families, is I don't think we talk enough about kids and what they're going through.
No, for sure. It's all about the ex-wife, stepmom drama. Now let's talk about the let them. Is it let them theory, the let them mindset, which I love. I'm all about. Yeah.
I'm all about it.
I'm all about it. Let them, whatever.
Yeah. I think that it takes a far greater power to let go than it does to try and clutch and hang on and control. And the reason that is because there's such a vulnerability that if you let go of control, that you're going to lose. You're going to lose your husband. You're going to lose power. You're going to lose priority, whatever that is. But really, that all comes down to ego. He picked you. He loves you. You can't forget that. He also has children, and he's got to put those kids first. There are so many step families where parent alienation is happening. What are you going to do about it? I mean, do you really think that getting in there and controlling it is going to work? It doesn't work. Every time that you try to force a narcissist or anyone character disordered to do something, they will just not do it for sport.
Mm-hmm.
So just let them. If they're going to trash talk you, let them. I don't get angry when I hear that she's saying bad things about me. She doesn't even know me, so I don't get angry. And I think the boys are sort of, she was saying this and that. And I just go, well, how would she know? She can think that. That's okay. But, how would she really know? Well, she doesn't. We stood up for you. And I'm like, oh, I love you. Thank you for that. But I'm sorry that I'm even a part of your conversation. So I just let her. I don't say you need to tell your mom, they don't need to do anything. Just let her. She's going to anyway. Like YOLO.
It's not going to help. It's not going to change anything. So when you're totally fixated on whether the ex likes you, whether they see what you do, whether they see all the things that you're doing to show up for their kids, like all the things, you're just going to end up being disappointed. Like you're giving your power away. At the end of the day, it has nothing to do with your relationship.
No, this just came to me, Jamie, and this is I think so important. They are not powerful. They're insecure.
100%.
We look at them as powerful, but they're insecure. And then that makes us insecure. So everyone's reaching for power, right? For what? Power over what? Over what? What are you really getting power over? You're losing your power. So just let her, look at her as not powerful, but just tragically insecure, right? Really healthy parents aren't insecure. Really toxic parents, they're really insecure. So they always go to power. But tug of war is just not going to work. They love to fight. They love to fight.
Well, it's a lot easier for someone who's struggling and who's hurt, who's insecure and has all this fear to focus on what other people are doing and other people's shortfalls and like all the things than looking at like what's going on for them.
Yeah, they project everything out. They want it to be everybody else. When you're dealing with someone like that, you just have to look at the profound lack of self-awareness and the lack of desire to even have self-awareness. Why? Because it's so much easier to cause trouble. When they know they've got you and your partner upset at each other, they're like, yes.
They love it. Love it.
Why feed it?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, that is so, so true. Wow. So true. The let them theory is really, it's just so powerful. You're really taking back your power, right? Because you can't control what anyone else thinks about you. You can't control how they respond. So for the stepmoms who are just waiting for the ex to jump on board, like you're going to be waiting for a long time. It's literally not worth your time and energy.
It's not, and I coach a lot of women that have to be, and men that have to be around their exes. And I'm like, let your body communicate, because if the ex is toxic, they're like a hawk. They kind of hover and they really want to be seen and they get loud and they want to just show like I'm
animated.
Yeah, they get very histrionic, right?
I'm awesome. I'm here.
Yeah. Look at me, mom. So it's so loud and so inauthentic, but they will like to be up in your space. So I've always used my body. I learned this at home, but let's say she's walking towards you and you're face to face. As she gets closer, give her your hip and your shoulder. As she gets even closer, just turn your back and walk on. It's so gracefully done that she won't even know, right? Because, we will have step parents confronting each other at events where the kids are. So there's ways to just hold your posture. And I just think being graceful and poised is just such a superpower. And I wish we put more emphasis into poise. Poise is tough. There is a real elegance to you, but you aren't going to reveal a lot. There's a boundary. Your energy is something that you can use. I always lift my chin just a bit, like, you're here, you've got this. You don't need to control the situation. Be in it, be of it, and just bring love, bring elegance, bring peace, bring support, bring your presence. Your presence is your power, right? So what narcissist can really knock your presence? When you're very self-aware and you're focusing on your presence, you cannot be knocked down because you don't care. Just let her look like the monkey, loud and, doing her dance. And you just be poised and quiet and spacious.
Oh my gosh, so good.
All of that. It's just such a superpower. I consider that feminine. We don't use those energies very much. We don't think about poise or composure, class. To me, those are superpowers and I use them every day.
So good. Sherrie, we've got to do this again. I have still so many things I want to dive into with you.
I would love to, Jamie.
Yeah, we'll do a part 2. We've got to get it scheduled, but thank you so much.
You're welcome.
For all of this. Where can everyone find you? What do you got going on right now? Everyone's like, okay, give me all the books.
I've got everything. I've got everything going on. So I've written 3 books on toxic family. They're all on Amazon, wherever books are sold. I just did a TED Talk.
So good.
It's the scariest thing I've ever done in life.
I bet it was scary. I get scared watching them for people.
And I went blank. So that I just kept talking but that was a moment of a lifetime. I got this topic on stage. It's called Not All Parents Are Good, which would still be very fitting because if you're dealing with a toxic ex, not all parents are good. But, I just think that I was a child who didn't matter. And to this day, I still do not matter to these people. They would rather die and go to their graves and repair. And so I was the forgotten child and we forget children. So much of being a stepmom, if you think about it, you're not a step ex, you're a stepmom. Your role is to focus on the children, not the ex-wife.
Mm-hmm.
Be the role, be the title, stepmom. Be open to these children. You don't have to love them. You don't have to like them right away, but you can be open to them. Just see what happens. Be curious. I would just love to see a shift where we focus more on the kids and less on the ex, right? Because you're never going to change that ex. So I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. I'm not very good at TikTok, but I'm on it.
Same girl, same. I can't.
I'm on Facebook. I've got a pretty large following on Facebook. That one's under Sherrie Campbell, PhD, but I blog every day. So
yeah, we'll link all of your stuff on the show notes.
Link it all.
Thank you so much. Until next time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That's it for this one. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if this episode resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you could share it with someone in your life who you think could benefit from it. And if you haven't already left a rating and a review on iTunes, it really is the best way to support the show. And if you're craving more real talk and coaching and community, be sure to check out my membership, the Kick-Ass Stepmom community. Head to www.kickassstepmom.com to learn more.